I want to come down to lightweight.
Yeah.
I think that's a better fit.
Come to light.
You know, you got to move up to lightweight.
No problem.
He's got to move up to lightweight. You know, he's got to move up to lightweight. I come down to lightweight, and we have a fight.
Yeah.
Right?
Good. Yeah.
That's what the fans are asking for.
Exactly.
That's what the fans are asking for. That's what the media is asking for. So let's give them that.
Yes.
All right.
All agree.
Boxing need this fight.
They do, because all the fans are
Exactly.
like, asking about it. Why not throw it up on a good pay-per-view show, on our own show, where we're the main stars right now in the lightweight divisions, in the super featherweight lightweight. There's no other names. So that's whenever they're ready to move up to lightweight. You know. So I got nothing negative to say. He's a tremendous fighter.
What did you take away from watching him in action?
I think it was very slow. Sorry, Mikey, but.
You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Hey, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family? Another daily edition of the show. Obviously live on YouTube, 5 p.m. Eastern. Well, it should be 5 p.m. Eastern. Shout out to Anthony making us late, but I'll get to that in a second. And obviously on podcast form on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, etc. You know what it is. And obviously with Anthony here, we are going to move the MMA portion of the show, UFC portion of the show in the beginning because he has to leave for some Share Dog obligations. So we're going to switch it up here. I do apologize. We'll get to obviously that Mikey and Loma clip in a second, or I should say in the second half of the show. But Anthony, how you doing, man? How's the UFC 227 sort of breakdown over there?
Feeling good, man. One, appreciate you holding up the show for a couple of minutes. So I apologize to everybody, especially the boxing heads out there that don't want to hear about this cage fighting nonsense that we talk about. So thanks a lot for that. Feeling nice, man. It's hot as hell in Los Angeles. The media room was absolutely no different with all the TV lights and whatnot. It was hot, but having a decent time covering 227 so far. Couple takeaways that we can get into, but should be a nice card.
I broke down the card yesterday for our viewers. I want to get your thoughts on the two, obviously, title fights because I'm conflicted on the main event, not so much the co-main. I think Demetrius Johnson is Demetrius Johnson, and we know how great he is. And I think Henry Cejudo hasn't really shown us anything in terms of improvements to beat Demetrius Johnson, but give me your thoughts on the two main sort of main events, two title fights this weekend at the UFC event.
All right, so first I'll get into the co-main. I'm with you on your assessment of DJ and Cejudo. I think Cejudo has made a lot of improvements. I mean, especially the Wilson Hayes fight. Even the loss to Joe Benavidez, man, he showed a whole lot of growth in a very short period of time. He's done so much to work on those nuances in his game. The problem is he's fighting Demetrius Johnson like that. you know, you can work on all these little details forever and a day, but you're still fighting easily one of the greatest fighters that's ever done it. And the guy is so creative. He's so fluid. He has the perfect mindset. I mean, this guy is so ultra relaxed, so laid back, so matter of fact about the whole thing, but he still takes his job very seriously. That combination is very dangerous when you also have these athletic advantages that he has, like blinding speed. I saw him fight live, in fact, when he lost to Dominic Cruz. And the one takeaway I can make from that fight was that it was like watching the Tasmanian devil whirl around the cage. You know, it's like you couldn't really tell what was going on. He was just moving that fast. Granted, he came up short in that, but we're also talking about the greatest bantamweight that's ever lived against him. So DJ is one of those guys that it's unstoppable at this point. Like, if you're picking against DJ right now, something you might need to get your head examined, because he hasn't shown anything since the Dominic Cruz loss at a higher weight class that exposes any real vulnerabilities.
Yeah, he had that one sort of slip up with Ian McCall that was literally, what, half a decade ago now at least.
Right.
You know, he has been perfect at this weight class. And again, like you said, Henry Cejudo has added just, I think, overall depth to his game, sharpened up his game, overall his technique. I think has put greater combinations in terms of his boxing together, because he always had natural boxing ability. But again, it's just he is not the guy to beat DJ, in my opinion. I think DJ's real struggle is going to be when he moves back up to 135 to try to take that big legacy-defining fight with maybe the winner of Cody Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, maybe a rematch with Dominic Cruz. But those are the fights I think that are really going to challenge Demetrious Johnson. Now moving to the main event, give me your sort of assessment of that. You know, the technical skills of these two. I mean, it is a fun style matchup between TJ Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt, and I think TJ is probably the better overall fighter. I'm leaning to that, but the timing, the power of Cody Garbrandt, those two things could be a massive factor towards him potentially winning.
Yeah, I mean, this is a coin flip. I'm not mad at anybody picking Cody. I'm not mad at anybody picking TJ. My first inclination is to lean toward TJ. You saw that the first time they fought, first of all, they were sparring partners. So, you know, there's a big time history of who knows how many times, besides that leaked footage of TJ getting dropped in training, who knows how many times that happened to Cody. Who knows how many times they got the better of each other, rolling jiu-jitsu or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot that we just don't know that they are fully aware of about the other person. But we saw when they clashed initially, you know, TJ was about half a second shy of getting put up out of there. And then, you know, the bell rang and he had time to recover and he came back and made the proper adjustments. You know, I just spoke with Dwayne Ludwig at the media day, and I mean, you're talking about one of the masterminds in martial arts, period. A guy who looks at martial arts like it's, you know, like it's a truly an art form and a science and like a puzzle to be dissected. And he applies this approach to TJ, and TJ just soaks this up. And I'm really curious to see what is going to be done differently, considering that they had such a good result. But Ludwig he has something up under his sleeve all the time. And I'll say this, at that media workouts that they did yesterday and even today, man, TJ just seems so sharp. He seems so focused and so calm about the whole thing. While Cody, on the other hand, I think he seems more caught up in the whole Team Alpha Male loyalties and whatnot that are the backdrop of this fight. And he is a very emotional person. I'm curious as to how much of a factor that's going to be as far as sticking to a game plan, doing what he needs to do when it needs to be done.
I mentioned that yesterday on the show, how much a game plan is crucial for this fight, because I think, like you said, Dwayne Ludwig is one of those top minds of the sport. It's him, Firas Zahabi, Greg Jackson. Like, it's those names that you sort of talk about as being the great minds of breaking down the fights, putting together a game plan. And like you said, TJ Dillashaw has soaked it up. They are perhaps one of the best sort of trainer-fighter pairing in MMA history, I would say. And then you also have the insane acumen and diversity of his skill set. I think TJ Dillashaw's going to come in there a little more reserved than the first fight. I think in the first fight, he was so often, I think, got caught in the middle, got caught in the center line against Cody Garbrandt. I hope, hopefully he switches that. But Anthony, do you have a window open by chance?
Yes, I do.
Can you please
close that?
Yeah, can you please close that? That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
I got you.
That'd be amazing. As I talk about this fight a little bit more, I think TJ Dillashaw, if he's able to get in and out without getting stuck in the middle. Getting stuck in the middle is the key part of this fight, where he could potentially get caught, like he did in that first round. The reason why he was caught is because when he was switching up stances, he was staying right in front of Cody Garbrandt and allowed himself to get hit with that. There's a lot of feedback there, Anthony. I don't know what it is.
I'm not sure.
It's almost
sit back a little bit. Is that better?
Do you have like a TV going on? Like, is there anything playing in the background?
Do I got all sorts of things going on over here.
See, Anthony,
I got like a whole multimedia center in my living room.
It definitely sounds like it's alive right now. You need to tell it to just calm down. It's better. It's better now. It sounds a lot better. We're good. But I think, in your mind, does a Danny Castillo, does those guys at Team Alpha Male, the new coaches, Chris Holdsworth, do they have the skill to really put together a game plan for Cody Garbrandt? Like, that's the one thing that I'm really stuck on as to why I can't pick Garbrandt.
I think they do, because on any given day, either guy can beat the other guy. Danny Castillo and especially Chris Holdsworth, I mean, they've proven to be excellent coaches, and they've really helped Team Alpha Male maintain a certain level of relevance and dominance in some respects since Uriah Faber has retired. Like they've, and even since Dwayne Ludwig left the camp, and they had that kind of that resurgence at that point. Those two guys have really held it down, and they don't deserve to be criticized in any way, shape, or form for how they coach. I mean, this is simply a pairing of two of the best guys in the division that know each other very well. And it's no matter what you do, no matter what minds you have, it's hard to get around that fact. They really do hate each other. And that's, I mean, it is clear as day. They despise one another. And to see them square off, just similar to 214, when seeing Jones and Cormier up close and squaring off with each other, you literally feel hatred in the air. Like it's on that level, to the point where yesterday at the media scrum after the workouts, I mean, the mention of Dillashaw's name and Cody Garbrandt was enraged. It's really like that. Like it's like Vic Mensa said to academics, it's on site.
I think Garbrandt, like you've said, like is vastly more emotional in this fight than probably Dillashaw, even though they both hate each other. I think Garbrandt, I think a lot of things are against him in this fight, though stylistically he does have the timing and power at any moment to change this fight on a dime and to win it. That's always the concern. That's always sort of the trump card he could always play in here. Any last thoughts on this card, Anthony, before we move on to maybe Trump himself, as we should get into?
Well, on the main event, I mean, we also have to remember that Cody is very early in his MMA career. He's only had, I think this will be his 12th or 13th fight, and that is very young for mixed martial artists in their development. So he can make great improvements, leaps and bounds between fights. Also, he's had that lingering back injury that apparently played a factor in 217. And if you ask me, I think something is up with him now. I don't, the way he's walking, even just, it almost looks like pain on his face when he's just standing there talking. I think he might not be the healthiest coming into this. So those factors make me want to lean towards TJ.
Agreed. And do we want to actually briefly cover the whole Cody Garbrandt, the whole Twitter situation with Cody Garbrandt? Should we cover that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we should at least address it. I mean, I asked him about it yesterday, and I think you retweeted.
Quickly, just for those that don't know, a bunch of tweets, old tweets from Cody Garbrandt resurfaced of him saying the N-word a bunch of times. Basically it.
Yeah, it was a few others where he dropped the homophobic F word.
Oh, I didn't see those.
Well. Yeah, I was shown that by another media member. I don't think that hit the news wire the way the initial tweets did. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, I mean, they were from 2012, 2013. In the long scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. Part of his story is that he was a knucklehead in the street doing things he wasn't supposed to do, and MMA kind of saved his life and got him on the right track. However, the thing that I find more disturbing in the matter is his flippant dismissal of the tweets themselves. Like, you know, the death stare that he gave me and saying like, yeah, I was a teenager, no comment. You know, that's kind of insufficient.
That's half of a good comment back. What you should say is not necessarily teenager, but like, I was young, I was stupid, I shouldn't have said that, and that was wrong. Gonna move on.
Exactly.
That's all you need to say. For all the fighters out there that are dealing with this, like Mike Perry, etc., that's an easy one line you can say that does wonders PR. Just saying.
And Mike Perry just did that. Mike Perry just did that like a couple weeks ago. Or
he's doing it tonight.
Yesterday or something.
Yeah, he's doing it tonight on the plane over to LA. He's still doing it, man.
So there's a big difference. That's like comparing, you know, the James Gunn situation to the Roseanne situation.
Yes.
Somebody did something several years back. They've shown themselves to be a different person. You know, they have opportunity for redemption. I mean, Cody, let's also remember that Cody has got like the kid that with cancer that's like his best friend that he brought in the cage when he won the belt. And that was such a good moment. And, you know, my personal vibe, I don't get a racist, you know, homophobic vibe from him necessarily. You know, he's a street dude. He's a street dude, got a little knucklehead in him. And yeah, if you want to get the blue chip sponsors, if you want the sport to be elevated, you want to see those big paydays, you got to at least own up to those knucklehead moments. You got to limit them in the present and apologize for the past. And it's really that simple.
And obviously, like, fighters aren't getting paid what they should in the UFC, but the guys at the top, you probably have enough money for some sort of PR rep in some capacity, someone that has some PR training. This should be told to you. Like, this doesn't need to be explained to you by media members. Like, that's the problem here, in my opinion, is that for some reason, the UFC management teams in the UFC or in MMA industry, like, no one is saying the common sense PR tactics that can be used here to not save careers, but make them easier. Like, this could be.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an MMA problem. You know, can you imagine an NBA player or just saying, you know, has.
Can you imagine Kristaps Porzingis coming out with like a bunch of old tweets? Like,
yeah, JJ Watt or something. He's dropping N-bombs and then he's like, yeah, whatever, man. That's not gonna fly. No. That is not gonna fly. And Cody's got top level management. Ali, forgive me if I'm screwing up his name. Ali Abdul.
Ali Abdulaziz. Yes.
Yeah, is his manager, and he is simply one of the best guys in management. He's got a lot of very high profile clients that get a lot of big money fights that put themselves in very prominent positions and make a decent chunk of change while they're at it. Ali, you know better. you know better. It's that simple. If Cody doesn't know better, you know better. So
not to really counter that too much, but Ali does have a vast history of saying ignorant, stupid shit in the media. So it's not the.
So maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe
does Ali know better? Does he really know better? I don't know.
But there's too much money floating around. There's too much publicity.
Yes.
For these sort of things to just go unchecked, and for someone to not say something like, we're going to say something. If we don't, we're not doing our jobs.
Not even hey, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, I mean, I have no interest in raking Cody Garbrandt over the coals. Like for something he said when he was 20 or 21 on Twitter. Like,
no, you're right about the James Gunn Roseanne comparison with Mike Perry and Cody Garbrandt. That's a good comparison. You know, like we have one or respective ones still doing it daily.
Yeah, like you just did it. It's different than the guy who did it 5 years ago.
I can go to Mike Perry's IG story right now, and every one of his stories has the N-word in it. Every single one.
I just can't bring myself to look at Mike Perry on social media at all.
I do, because it's like Broner in a sense. It's like the white version of Broner. It's so good. It's so hilarious.
I just like when he dropped the M-bomb with Woodley, like, yeah, my N-word Woodley, I'm like, okay, we're done here. We are done. I don't have the energy for this. And yeah, and like I used to be a rapper, okay, so I know back in the day I probably said some stupid things and things if they song pop up and resurface that I was on. Yeah, you know what? I apologize for things that I have matured out of. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's really easy to say.
See how easy that was?
It was quick buy rate prediction for this pay-per-view, because me and you have sort of gone back a little bit on social media about oversaturation. This card isn't that great. This headliner doesn't seem to have a lot of mainstream steam behind it. I'm really concerned about what the buy rate's going to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a low one, I think. And the thing is, the action on the card should be fantastic. There are a lot of really good style matchups on this card. The Kevin Holland, Thiago Santos fight is one that I really am looking forward to. But you don't know those guys' names. One of them's making his UFC debut, and the other one is just kind of been around for big cards, but hasn't made a big wave yet.
Even like a Cub Swanson versus Renato Moricano, like
that's
great fight.
Excellent.
But no one knows or cares about that matchup. Just being honest.
There's a lot of good stuff flying under the radar, and even the main and co-main event. I mean, there is some level of excitement around Henry Cejudo, being that he's originally from this area and Mexican fighter. So yeah, at the open workouts, he got a good reception. Demetrius Johnson is potentially the greatest fighter of all time. So yeah, he got some reception, but at the same time, these are diehard fans showing up to open workouts. Like these are not the casual pay-per-view buyers. I would be very surprised if this cracked the 300,000. I'm going low 200 for this one.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I forget what pay-per-view it was. It was Demetrius Johnson versus Carriazo with Conor McGregor on it. That did like 225, I want to say. This might do around that, even though it's a much better fight, much better card. I just think that like you've said on social media, and I've sort of maybe countered, but I will agree with you on this point, oversaturation, it's hitting. Like there are options out there. HBO has a boxing fight this weekend. Fox has a boxing fight card this weekend. There's tons of action going on here that if you're just a casual combat sports fan, you can watch free content without paying the $60 to see these two fights, which you will see the end of on Instagram afterwards.
Right. Yeah, so I think that just kind of is what it is. I mean, this is the current state of the UFC, and especially when you have the lightest male weight class headlining the card. One of the lightest weight classes headlining the card, and the lightest weight class co-headlining the card. Two guys who haven't had a lot of pay-per-view traction. I don't really know what to say about this. I don't even think they've done a good job of selling the TJ Cody rivalry either. I don't think they've done a lot to kind of push this.
They should have made it
to promote.
Here's the thing: they should not have made the fight in the first place. It was
absolutely. I
mean, they're going to have another case of what just happened. I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
With Joanna and Rose.
Yes. Joanna just picked up a great win versus Tisha Torres, like phenomenal in it, I think. Outclassed her, and now it still is nowhere near a title shot.
No, and for the foreseeable future won't be as long as Rose holds the belt. So if Cody goes out there and has a repeat performance, I mean, Cody Garbrandt is still one of the best bantamweights alive without any shadow of a doubt. Mm-hmm. But if he loses tomorrow, Saturday, what's his prospects next? Like, I mean, he could try to drop to 125 and take on DJ and make himself relevant in the flyweight division. But that's a tough ask for a guy to drop another 10 pounds, even if he says to the media that he's able to do it. That's only in theory.
And moving up to 145 when he's getting potentially dropped and KO'd at bantamweight isn't probably the smartest idea.
Yeah, and he's not the biggest 135er anyway. So I don't see that being a viable option. Who knows what's going to happen? But this is not the wisest matchmaking decision by the UFC at all.
Agreed. Let's move over to the news that trolled all of MMA media today. If you're looking on YouTube right now and you listen on podcast, I'm sorry you're not looking at it. But Colby Covington, God bless him. God bless this poor bastard. Saying, like at POTUS, at Real Donald Trump, always says, promises made, promises kept. Pleasure to finally meet you, Mr. President. And I'm totally picturing like a Sage Northcutt voice right there. By the way, like this very like like juvenile teenage like school abroad voice right there. Thank you for always putting America first. Hashtag MAGA. Hashtag Great American Winning Machine. With the picture of Colby Covington with Donald Trump and Trump holding the interim belt that he may or may not get stripped of.
Doesn't mean anything. It means less than what it meant before. Like what? Please explain to me the point of all of this. Like if Colby Covington was matched up against Tyron Woodley, which makes the most sense from story, business-wise, competitively, it makes sense in every way, shape, and form. They scrapped that because, God forbid, the man got punched in the face a few times and he needs some sort of medical attention in the meantime. And they won't even grant him, several weeks to heal up to make this right. Like, this is stupid on every level. Like, I can't find a single intelligent thing. Even if in the backdrop of Colby versus Tyron, this is the perfect promotion right here. This is the black champion who's so disliked with the Make America Great Again crowd, and to have that clash and Donald Trump with the belt sitting on the desk in the Oval Office. This is perfect promotion. However,
they're not fighting.
Promoting a fight. We're just being stupid now.
Yo, I'm telling you right now, because of the MMA gods, Darren Till is knocking out Tyron Woodley and ruining all of this shit just because of this.
Just because MMA.
Because of MMA, yes. Not because Till is better or it's because of MMA and this won't happen. But just to piggyback off of this, like you said, if this fight was happening, this is perfect promotion. This is the Joe Louis, Max Schmeling of today's generation, of today's era. It is completely the white hype versus the black champion. It is the same storyline that's been used over 100+ years in combat sports, and it's perfect for today's culture and climate, I would say. And I think the UFC, being historically not the greatest promoters with some champions and everything, this is a storyline they can tell. This is one they know. Dana White, he knows this story. Trust me, he's good with this. And it just seems so mismanaged. Like, this is literally the easiest thing to make and to happen. Like you said, why not just push the fight back another month or two? Why not just let this fight happen? This is the fight to make. But no, we're going to have Darren Till fight Woodley. We're going to have Covington maybe be the interim champion, maybe not. I don't know if he's stripped. That's never been official.
I think he'll be stripped once that fight starts or something. Like the same thing they did with Conor when Khabib fought Iaquinta. Why? Why are we doing this? First of all, I mean, the interim title was the dumbest idea to introduce for the welterweight division. Woodley was a very active champion. He's been a very active champion aside from the shoulder injury that he suffered at 214. He has very, very publicly proclaimed that he was ready to go in June, possibly. Mm-hmm. He said July would be ideal, but he could push it to June, and he was ready to fight. And you had Covington in already. You had Dos Anjos already. You had these same people sitting there. So then you decide, you know what? No, champ. You're going to sit down longer. You want to fight, but no, just sit down longer so we can make this unnecessary matchup with this unnecessary belt and we can pluck off a viable contender because fuck it. Like, I don't understand the logic in this. And then if you go that route, and then you double down in stupidity by not just honoring the interim title that you just gave the man weeks ago. It hasn't even been 2 months since he won the belt. What's the point? Are we now just you know what? Just slap a belt on every promo poster. Just slap a belt on it. I don't care if the main event is Gleison Tebow and Abel Trujillo rematch. I don't care. Slap a belt on the poster because that's what we do now. Are people that stupid?
Well, I'm not to put this potential future that we may have out there in the universe, But boxing that did this. Like, they went from like one sanctioning body to 3 to multiple belts within one. Like, why can't the UFC do it? Obviously, they shouldn't do it. Obviously, it's not good business long term, but this is something that has been done already in combat sports and almost every other sport. Like, kickboxing has this issue, Muay Thai has this issue, boxing has this issue. The UFC has been lucky enough to not really have this issue until recently, and I could see them just keeping Covington as an interim champion. Why not? Like, what? There's no rule saying they have to strip him. Think about that. And in their minds, it's easier to promote a title unification. I just see a quick future here for the UFC where interim champions are not only a very common thing, but they're a thing that stays even when a champ is active. Because boxing does that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way it seems to be going. I mean, let's not forget, too, that Mark Ratner testified before Congress, you know, when they're discussing whether or not the Ali Act should be passed for mixed martial arts. And Ratner is saying that, the title belt is not necessarily about who's the best in the division. That's about who's the best that night. And they are pushing. I mean, it was obvious, you know, horseshit that he said that. It was just something to, you know, that maybe
get the government off their back.
Congressman who wouldn't know a jab from a hook it might fall for. But it was obviously horseshit. But they're moving in that direction. They're moving to horseshit championship. I guess I don't understand what are you hoping to accomplish here? Like, one of the big selling points for mixed martial arts coming up, in particular the UFC's rise to dominance, is that it wasn't boxing. Mm-hmm. It was very confusing. As a guy who covers combat sports, I get very confused about who's the champion, what this weight class means, and super this and light this and junior this. It's very confusing. And then to have, with all those different weight classes, to have, you know, all these different sanctioning bodies of varying levels of importance, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So to add on that same sort of philosophy that's confusing to the casual fan has turned off a lot of people from really understanding what's going on. Mm-hmm. Now apply that to mixed martial arts and take away some of the best things about the sport as it's been done as a business. I'm not quite seeing what the whole point of this is.
No, I completely echo that. There's no real explanation of it. Quickly, though, someone in the chat made a really funny point. Question, and this is from the Boxing Idiot in the live chat saying, question, is Dylan White, the boxer who fought over the weekend against Joseph Parker, is Dylan White the WBC silver champion or the WBO international champion? And that, like, we are, I mean, probably within 10 years, if it keeps going this way, of the UFC having shit like the international champion and the silver champion. Like
an intercontinental.
Oh, like, fuck yeah, why not? Like, they're going to put like international events on Fight Pass or ESPN Plus and have South American champion, or, you know, they always talk about that with Tough. They always talk about having like a Tough Asia and Tough China, like you replace Tough with champion. Like, they could do this. There's no rules saying they don't.
Away belts for the Ultimate Fighter winners, if you were to go to that point. Start giving away to the Contender Series fighters. I mean, I'm not quite getting what the whole point is. I mean, keep this in mind too. When James Toney fought Randy Couture at UFC 118, I believe it was, he was a heavyweight champion in boxing. He was like the North American BO champion. I should have just spelled it out, North American Boxing Organization, because not North American Body Odor.
Yes,
you know
that would have been better.
Yeah. But I think everybody understood what I was trying to say. But yeah, so he was like James Toney, a bloated James Toney, who was a heavyweight champion. Really? This is what you want to introduce to mixed martial arts? Okay. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, we're there. Moving on to the next piece of news in the UFC world. 4 new policies were adopted by the ABC. The definition of a KO was changed to the Big John McCarthy definition, and also greasing, as you know, is called in the MMA world, is now allowed in between rounds. For people that follow boxing, you know this is the application of Vaseline in between rounds. In the UFC and MMA, that was never allowed. I shouldn't say never allowed. It was not allowed for a large part of its run, I would say, due to like the George St. Pierre, BJ Penn incident, I want to say.
Right.
But Right? Have you heard these new policies at all?
Quite honestly, I didn't get to read the articles that were posted. I saw some headlines, and I didn't. And in the media room today, nobody was really a buzz about it. I guess we had bigger fish to fry as far as talking to all the fighters and the chaos surrounding that. But as far as the greasing thing goes, I mean, this is clearly an attempt, in my opinion, to steer the action more toward striking. If you allow greasing, you allow the Vaseline to be applied to the face, which understandable. It's going to keep, it's going to minimize cuts and whatnot, but it's going to be about 0.04 seconds before this turns into grease on the body. The Vaseline is going to be applied on the eyebrows, and then that coach with that Vaseline on his fingers is going to pat his guy on the back.
Well, actually, in the rules, it cannot be applied by a coach. It has to be applied by the official cornerman that's in the commission cornerman per se.
Okay.
So just to throw that out there, I mean, it's
promotional cutmen only exists in the top level promotions. Like in the UFC, they have staff guys that are cutmen. Bellator, I believe, doesn't even do that. I mean, most cutmen are part of a person's camp.
True.
So they're going to do whatever they can for their fighter to have an advantage. How long do you think it takes for Yoel Romero's crew to do this? I mean, you're talking about a corner that has bent and stretched the rules as far as they'll take them. It is only a matter of time. And I say a matter of time, 0.04 seconds before someone uses this the wrong way.
Hey, I'll be honest, I didn't even think about it in that way. I thought of it more in the aspect of we're going to see far less cuts, I think, due to this, just because of the Vaseline being on people's face more often and throughout a fight will allow shots not to sort of, rip the skin open. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it in that context, but you're right that it's a small, I think, step towards, wanting more stand-up action in MMA as a whole. I would be interested to see what would be like a Big John's reasoning for this, even though this is not his specific policy. The KO one is his. But just I'd be interested to see what cornermen think of this in terms of MMA, because obviously in boxing it's an afterthought. It's not something that is thought about in any way because there is no grappling in that sense.
Yeah, that's such a small part of it, and even if you did apply Vaseline to a boxer's body, the way their clinch work wouldn't change much. It's going to be broken up anyway. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference. But could you explain McCarthy's KO definition that the commission is adopting?
Yes. Reading this from MMA Fighting, the policy change states that a finish is called a knockout now when a fighter cannot intelligently defend himself or herself. A TKO will be defined as a finish when a fighter is not intelligently defending themselves. Previously, the determination was made arbitrarily by the fight's referee. The change was proposed from a medical perspective so that a commission can adequately determine the severity of the finish when determining medical suspensions. Basically, I read this on Twitter. I forget from who exactly. They explained probably a little better than that. A knockout's not only when you're unconscious, like the act of actually being unconscious, having to be woken up. That is no longer just a KO. It's now being expanded to something maybe more along the lines, I don't know, maybe an Eddie who's just not doing anything, who cannot do anything, who's on the ground just taking shots, who's still
like
awake.
Shogun and Anthony Smith.
Yeah,
sort of
something like that. More where they are awake, but they're just clearly cannot do anything.
Like you're out on your feet as also included with that. I mean, that's just seems to be just a policy change that won't affect the action a whole lot. All it's going to do is change the difference between KO and TKO when Bruce Buffer reads the
not necessarily. It's going to be mainly for medical suspension is the reason why Big John wants it, because it expands when people have the mandatory medical suspensions for all KO. Because when you get a TKO, you don't get the mandatory, 60-day or 90-day.
Okay.
You don't get that, I believe. You only get that for a KO. So I believe this will hopefully, in his idea, expand it for more people who receive concussions.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things, too, that's nice on paper, but probably means nothing in actual practice. If Frankie Edgar could get his head knocked off solid by Brian Ortega and then fight Cub Swanson, just a few weeks later, and skirt the real use of a medical suspension. All that. What are we talking about? Michael Bisping, getting thrashed by GSP, and he, is cleared long enough so he can fight Gastelum and get thrashed again. It doesn't mean anything. It's one of those things. It's nice on paper, but real life moves at a totally different speed.
That is completely true. Two last little MMA news or topics before Anthony has to head out of here and we go over to boxing. Sergio Pettis versus Jose Formiga is targeted for UFC 229. Love that fight, and Sergio Pettis is one of those. He seems like he's finally getting it together, in ways that he didn't in the past. And also, if you're on YouTube and you can obviously see this, shout out to Eric McRacken over at Eric McRacken on Twitter. Go check his Twitter account out, one of the best combat sports lawyers out there, saying, reading Lorenzo Fertitta's deposition from the latest UFC antitrust filing. And if you're on podcast, you obviously cannot see the image. The entire 4 pages is blacked out. And it's all redacted. Not a single word is allowed for the public. So shout out to Lorenzo Fertitta. Getting that mafia money around, making sure nothing comes to light, man. But Anthony, that is it for MMA. I know you have to head out of here. You want to give any sort of social media to the people?
You can follow me on Twitter and now Instagram. Ooh. I actually just trying to do some professional stuff right here. Ant Walker MMA on Twitter and Instagram. Hit me up, DMs, tweets, all that good stuff. Love to speak to the general face-punching public.
Well, thank you, Anthony, for being on. It's always a pleasure to have you on, man, and have a good time calling the live play-by-play for ShareDog.com for PFL tonight.
I think that might be the duty I'm on. I've got it. This is actually be my first time doing like fight night duties for the website. So this should be fun. I'll have to see how this voice recognition works on my new laptop, and I'll just yell out everything and type it up and upload it to the site and see how that works. So.
Good luck with that, man.
All right, we'll try it.
All right, peace, Anthony. Have a good one.
Take care, man. Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Anthony Walker. We're going to be moving over to the boxing portion as I fix the screen. Yes, I am back. Just me. Thank you, obviously, to Anthony. Always a pleasure to have him on. And quickly, I never shout out anyone in the chat, and usually I do that. So before we head over to boxing, Nija, Rick, pound for pound supporters right there. Rob, Lord Jacob, Fat Apples, the Boxing Idiot, KC Cobra, AA Boxing and Blunts, everyone in the chat. I think Robisky was there for a brief period of time. Shout out to Kyle. He's probably going to be listening on the playback or something. Hope everyone's been having a great day. But let's get over to the boxing news of the day, because Top Rank making some headlines and definitely some rumors we're going to get to. TV deals are being made, people. That is for sure. That is not to be understated. Top Rank ESPN enter new content deal through 2025. Oh my God. So basically, to give the breakdown of the events, it will include 18, and this is per ESPN, Boxing Scene. Every outlet has got this press release. It will include 18 live events each year on ESPN, 12 primetime events on ESPN+, 24 international events on ESPN+, and undercard coverage for all 54 events on ESPN. Wow. Yeah, so obviously that's, two more fight cards than we have weeks in the year. It's something that I think we all are maybe a little bit shocked of. I mean, I didn't think they were going to have this much of an obligation to ESPN. Definitely interesting. And just to piggyback off of that, and actually, no, to switch back to that before we move off from that slightly. Talking to Anthony about oversaturation for the UFC and such, this could be an issue going forward, I should say. there's a lot of boxing going to be featured in 2019. DAZN's 50-plus events from World Boxing Super Series, Eddie Hearn, etc. Now we have Top Rank and ESPN having 54 events. God knows what Showtime schedule is going to be. It's a lot of boxing, so hopefully we don't get a ton of bad cards. But moving over to some rumors and such. This first was sort of broke by Barbosa Box on Twitter, saying a good friend of mine with lots of knowledge, also a promoter and a great insider, told me, hey, Fur, Al already signed with Fox. He came to LA to sign the deal the other day. Oh, God. Oh, God. And Boxing Esquire. Oh, no, sorry. Adam Aberwitz saying he heard a similar talk about a Fox deal. Boxing Esquire echoed that, saying, my understanding is that the PBC to Fox is not officially done, but will be soon. Look for PBC to be on both Fox and Showtime. This should lead to more activity for their stars, etc. So, I don't know really where to go from here, to be honest, because this obviously is a rumor. This is not substantiated yet by a major outlet, I want to say. But there seems to be a lot of smoke to this potential fire that PBC is going to Fox in some capacity. Obviously, Top Rank is official with ESPN in a major way. It's going to be interesting, this new paradigm we're entering into the sport, where, again, Showtime, you have to be worried here. You have to. You have a shrinking budget. You've not really raising the overall subscription base and viewership of your fights, let's be honest. There could be other outlets that do a better job than you, potentially, or better networks, I should say, not outlets. And we have Eddie with DAZN. We have Top Rank with ESPN, both near 100 or plus $100 million budgets per year. Golden Boy having a Fox deal, Facebook deal that we don't know the amount of it, but it's something. And then obviously Golden Boy having some sort of ESPN deal as well. They're obviously a smaller player, but they're still a player. It's still a lot of boxing, and now potentially PBC going on both Showtime and Fox. Interesting. I hope they don't give us more cards like Berto versus Alexander, give us more fights like Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter on Fox. That's what they need to do. But it's just interesting. Casey Cobra saying, what's DAZN? DAZN. DAZN is, you know what DAZN is. DAZN is what Eddie Hearn is aligned with. Come on. That's what it's called. Even Jacob's like, DAZN, duh. But anyways, digressing, yes. So, just something to pay attention to going forward. I don't know how or what this will look like. I don't know if it's even going to happen or if it's true, but a lot of movement being done network-wise for boxing. We hopefully will get a ton of events in 2019, and it definitely seems like boxing's on a rise in some way, shape, or form. That I don't know if it's really makes a lot of sense. Fox makes some sense to PBC. They're losing the UFC next year. They got the WWE. That's huge. I think PBC will help. They probably need another small MMA organization, maybe PFL, maybe LFA, one of those, to sort of beef up their lost content from the UFC. But ESPN spending so much money, DAZN spending so much money on combat sports, it's shocking. And God knows if Fox is giving the bag to PBC, wow, there's a lot of money being thrown around for boxing. Hopefully the fighters get a large portion of it. Let's be honest, as they deserve it. And obviously, if you're listening way in the beginning of the show, way in the beginning, Fat Apple saying Fox, ? Fat Apples, I know you're from the UK, so maybe you don't know. So the big free channels that basically everyone has in the U.S., like 200 million people, 300 million people have it, is NBC, Fox, CBS, and ABC. Those are the big four. Sorry, big four. Those four networks. They're in every home, basically. But yeah, that's what Fox is. Not Fox News, if maybe you're more of a political person. It's not necessarily the same thing. Totally different. But But digressing, obviously, if you listen to the very beginning of the show, you heard the little soundbite over there from Mikey Garcia and Lomachenko. And Mikey Garcia deciding,
I want smoke.
Do you, Mikey? Do you? Mikey saying here, in reference to Lomachenko, yes, there is option B, but things may get complicated. I'm interested in Lomachenko, and at lightweight, there is no other opponent more attractive than him. But I have not heard Bob Arum say they want to fight me. Bob Arum is not going to allow this fight, and why should I waste my time if they are not interested? Let them talk to me. Wow. Mikey. Do I need to play the clip again, people? Do I need to? I feel like I need to. Oh. Sad music. I know, it's that sad. But let me play the clip right here because God bless good old Mikey.
I want to come down to lightweight.
Yeah.
I think that's a better fit.
Come to light.
You got to move up to lightweight.
No problem.
He's got to move up to lightweight. He's got to move up to lightweight. I come down to lightweight and we have a fight.
Yeah.
Right?
Good. Yeah.
That's what the fans are asking for.
Exactly.
That's what the fans are asking for. That's what the media is asking for. So let's give them that.
Yes.
All right.
All agree.
Boxing need this fight.
They do because all the fans are
exactly.
asking about it. Why not throw it up on a good pay-per-view show, on our own show, where we're the main stars right now in the lightweight divisions, in the super feather lightweight. There's no other names. So that's whenever they're ready to move up to lightweight. So I got nothing negative to say. He's a tremendous fighter.
What did you take away from watching him in action?
I think it was very slow. Sorry, Mikey. But
Who really wanted that smoke? Who really talked that shit in person? It was Loma, who was all nice and pleasant, saying, "Oh, I have nothing mean to say. The fight should be made. All the fans want it. All the media want it. The fight should be made. If Lomachenko moves up to lightweight, we can have it done. We can do our own thing, our own pay-per-view."
They're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
So Mikey, they do want the fight. Loma has said it. Igas Klimas has said it. Everyone has said it. It's just get the fight done. If I see fucking Earl Spence versus Mike Garcia, God, that'd be some bullshit. God, it will be. But it is what it is, folks. You know how the fight game can be. But moving on to some more news. Per Dan Rayfield, Sergey Derevchenko versus Daniel Jacobs will be an HBO televised card on November 10th at Nassau Coliseum, allegedly. So, I mean, we already knew this fight was going to happen. I'm going to break it down when it comes fight week, but it looks like it's going to be November 10th, Nassau Coliseum. So if you're in the Tri-State area, you can go watch it. You can go see it. Definitely recommend that you do. Hold on one second. Sorry. Looking for something. Oh, there we go. Rob sending me something via... Ooh. Rob with the breaking news. Per Dan Rayfield, and by way of Rob in the chat, thank you, Rob, saying Rock Nation Sports and Guillermo Rigondeaux agree to part ways. Good, because Rigondeaux hated Rock Nation. He did not enjoy them as his promoter. He basically wanted to tell me as such before his trainer stopped our interview when I was in camp with them. No, he has always been upset there. So it is what it is. But yes, shout out to Guillermo Rigondeaux, at least parting ways with them as he should. Rock Nation has done an awful job in boxing, and maybe he finally gets some fights. He's been MIA ever since. Rabisky saying, bring back UK Hour, Matt and Rob on Mixed Combat Radio. Sorry. Shout out to Rob for ducking UK hour like Rigo ducked 118 World Boxing Super Series, says Fat Apples. Moving on, Jack Catterall versus O'Hara Davis lands in the... I used to know how to pronounce this name. Leicester? I believe I pronounced that right. Potential Lunatic asking, Matt, do you know much about the Anthony Sims Jr. kid that signed with Matchroom? I've seen him a few times. I believe on like Showtime, like Extreme cards and stuff like that. He's decent. He's not a bad undefeated light heavyweight. Definitely, I would say not of the caliber, or I would say the hype of guys like Buatsi or Anthony Yard in that division. But definitely someone that is good. Someone that it will be a good card filler, which Eddie needs tons of. Let's be honest with the amount of schedule he has. Lester. Oh, thank you, Potential Lunatic, saying how you pronounce that as Lester. Appreciate that. Moving on to some more news. Rayo de Moreda versus Rob Brandt purse bid ordered by the WBA. What? I'm honestly confused what Rob Brandt has done since he lost in the World Boxing Super Series to get this fight. But then again, it's a purse bid for a regular champion, not the super champion. WBA. Shaking my head at you motherfuckers over there. But is WBA the one in Panama? I forget. Wherever your office is, you guys are fucking up. No one cares about your regular champion, interim champion, and all that. But, I mean, at least it's a fun fight for Moreda. I think both guys are going to be there to be hit. Should be fun as long as it lasts. And will probably be on ESPN+. So at least pay attention to where that fight's going to happen. Moving over to the UK, Rob's favorite fighter in the world, Joe Joyce, wanting to make a statement by fighting Luis Ortiz, maybe in his next fight, maybe not. He hasn't decided yet.
I want smoke.
Maybe he wants smoke. We don't know. Maybe. But yeah, I'll put it this way. Joe Joyce versus Luis Ortiz makes no sense right now. In a couple fights, depending who he's matched up with, I think it makes a lot of sense. If they put Joe Joyce versus Derek Chisora, or Joe Joyce versus Gerald Washington, Duhapis next, and then fight Luis Ortiz, it makes more sense. And it's a more viable fight for Joe Joyce, who I think would be in a really rough fight with Luis Ortiz. I think Joe Joyce struggles with southpaw fighters that can move on the back foot. Luis Ortiz can do that. Plus, he has more power. If you want an example of that, look at Joe Joyce versus Alexander Usyk in the World Series of Boxing. Joe Joyce struggled and got pieced up by the southpaw that can move and hit him. Luis Ortiz can do that with much more power. So I think it's a tough fight right now, to be honest. I really think there's really no possibility of this happening next. I think it's just talk. But good talk. Moving over to some, not necessarily sad news. I think it's some good news because this fighter should have made this decision. Lucas Matisse makes the decision to retire from boxing. Salute to Lucas Matisse. Always a fun action fighter who probably never really realized his full potential, but again, fun fighter that was in some great fights in his career that I think us hardcores will think about in a good fashion, in a good light. It was always fun. He may not have the Toragati sort of legacy, but man, he definitely has a fun legacy. Moving over to the last piece of news by way of boxing history over there on Twitter, the homie saying, on this day in 1980, Aaron Pryor won the WBA super lightweight title with a 4th-round KO of Antonio Cervantes. So yes, last piece of little information as we head out of here. We're basically saying, Matt, is Joyce a late bloomer? Well, yeah, he's also a guy that stayed in the amateurs very long. It's both a factor of being a late bloomer, a factor of being in the amateurs for significantly longer than probably most. Boxing Blunt saying Joyce is the most decorated amateur in UK. Joyce has a silver medal, and AJ has a gold medal. So maybe has like the most wins ever, which I kind of doubt, to be honest, if that's true. But he definitely is not the most accomplished or most decorated when he has a silver medal. And literally a contemporary of his in his weight class has a higher medal in the Olympics. Right? Come on. Igloo saying still need to share this around to get 1,000 subs. That is right. That is right. Do not forget that, ladies and gentlemen. 1,000 subscribers before the end of the month. Now this new month. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Share the show. Go to iTunes. Leave a review. It helps drastically to get exposure for the show. I'll be back, obviously, tomorrow. Same time as always. 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Shout out to Anthony for joining us today. Always a pleasure to have him on. Casey Cobra saying, we know AJ's goal was gift wrap, not earned. But still, I mean, the statement was he's the most decorated. That is just factually untrue. People have a higher medal than him. But anyways, you can find me at Matt Hunter, MCR. Hipsters here. Haters beware.
I want smoke.
They back obviously later. And live fight chats this weekend. See ya.